very early. Can you just talk about Sam Williams, what you like about him, how you view him,
Sure.
what he needs to work on?
Yeah, and it was. This is usually one of my more favorite weekends, through the NFL and getting to be a part of the guy's first entry into the NFL, and it's for as long as I can remember, from my first year coming into the NFL, of going to your first mini camp and being part of a team again. So I've just loved it. So what are we looking for, from not just Sam, but from a lot of the guys, was just to see their movements and get a chance to see what they can do. And I think that's kind of what this first 3 days are about, to find unique traits, and then it's up to us to find the traits that a player has. Okay, this is how we'd feature them. And so to me, the evaluation is now, and then it goes in through the OTAs, and then there's another part of it that goes into camp. But one thing we do know for sure, there's speed and there's explosiveness and get off, all the things you look for in a rush. But past that, that's now I'm just trying to find right side, left side, inside, outside. And so I'll try some new jobs, some new positions. Some will work well, some won't. And then, but I like to do those projects now and in the spring to find out what a guy can do. And so I have a high standard for what I think he can do, but it'll take a while to get to know him and inside out and all the things, unique stuff that he has.
When you went and worked him out down there at Ole Miss and ran that drill, what popped to you about him?
Well, I'd say just his initial quickness, and sometimes as a pass rusher, beating someone to the punch is more than half the job. And so if you have the quickness to get on somebody both mentally and physically, to put that kind of pressure on somebody, and I felt that one with him. And then anytime you go and you spend extra time with somebody, and you just gain more. We met at the combine and then got a chance to meet there again and, talk on calls. And so just building that relationship, I think, is an important part of not just his draft pick, but for others as well. So I think it was there, going to Ole Miss, he came here, then we started on calls. So like most things, relationships take some time, and the stronger, the longer it goes, hopefully the stronger it gets. But I think leaving the field that day, I remember telling Mike, man, I'd really like to coach that guy. And that's a good feeling to have when you leave somewhere, knowing that if the opportunity comes about to coach him, I think we'd have a real plan for that.
Is the opposite ever?
Oh yeah, a lot of times. And when you leave somewhere, you say, and there's been players that you didn't get to coach, and you kept up through the years. You saw them before a game or after the game, and hey, remember, I came to school X, Y, or Z. But I have had that feeling, and most of the times when you have that feeling, it's usually a good, because you can also have the other side of that emotion too, to say, good player, but we probably aren't the best fit for one another. And so I've had that emotion there too. And but I like energy. I like guys who have speed, and I want to see them really push it. And those are some of the traits that I saw that day, for sure.
How have you evaluated him against the run?
Going through inside, outside. He played a lot of different techniques at Ole Miss. Some he was playing inside, what we call a 4-eye as a B-gap player, some on the outside. So I would say most of the time I evaluate him on the things that we would ask him to do. And on those things, run, pass, drop, stunts, I kind of go through a checklist of the things I would ask him to do. And I really thought he'd fit in well with the defense that we play and the style that we play. So, colleges are sometimes more versatile or less versatile, or you put guys in different spots, and sometimes you find, okay, what are the best things that he would do in our system? And I try to always be really clear on that when I'm looking at somebody, to say, all right, what would he do here? And, for instance, that might be a safety that, when I looked at Marquise, to say, what would he look like at linebacker? What would he look like down in the box? And so, we sent, coach down to visit with him. He came in on a visit, and I had him meet as a linebacker for that day, because I think he has some of those traits, because I saw the hitting and the contact. So I try to just always, use my, not imagination, but, make sure the vision is there for the player, because sometimes when a guy gets here, they're not quite sure what the vision is. And I think that's a really important part of it, to explain it out. I explained, to the players last night, your identity will now be shaped about what you do. And I talked about Leon, I think, who was a 7th-round pick here and played 11 years, and Al Harris, our DB's coach, played 15 years and was a 6th-round pick. And I said if they had to redraft those guys a few years later, they probably wouldn't have been drafted in the 6th round and the 7th round. So what you do from here is really going to shape your identity. That's up to me and the other coaches to make sure we can put guys in spaces to allow them to be at their best. I said, I want to see, for whatever your best looks like today, however long we go. And so whatever reps you have, I want to see what your best looks like. So I know I answered a long-winded way to ask you that, but I think it was important for you to understand what I look for.
Dan,
How far along were you in your coaching career before you went from just looking at a guy and what kind of football player he was to then saying we got to have a role or a vision?
You know what? I had some excellent mentors on the way up, and so my first NFL job was at the San Francisco 49ers, and there was a veteran coach there who at the time was in player personnel. His name is Bill McPherson. He just passed a year ago, but he was a fantastic defensive line coach and defensive coordinator. And so it was just almost every day I'm in his office. And he had coached Charles, you know, in San Francisco, and Bryant Young and others. And during those years with him, I think I learned the value of what the roles were. You know, hearing, you know, Coach Walsh or somebody say, you know, he's a third down rusher. He could be a short yardage fullback. All the, you know, the traits that I had. Now, when I went to the NFL, I'd come from college where it was recruiting. It was just, no, he's an end, he's a tackle, he's a quarterback. And so they became different for me. Okay, we'll see how much you guys like me now. Locker room is open. See that? Go.
Follow-up for you.
Last question.
You guys can go ahead, honestly. I will not. I would much rather you spend time with them today than me.
Tell us where your eyes
I'll follow up with you, and then if anybody, you can leave with no penalty.
Did that,